going into the Assin North elections, one of the concerns and then the expressing is how I bit me a bit me provide security I have quite adequate. And I think on that particular score, no, beginning leading up to the Assin North elections, and I was very much concerned about them parenting and crew for Kuguha na health screening and as a phone man no more year a brand ya police need to Accra and several other issues are there also. But that notwithstanding, no, during the election day, and I think that they were able to provide security. It may boy ma yanya inshada anya incident be a broya so. And on that particular score, and I think the police administration, the police force, and police service, and Ankasa deserve a lot of commendation. I yet me accepted this particular example, and going into the next elections, we are hoping it will be manned by the same police individuals who are known. Na inquire national security, inquire those armed bandits, who are more in Techima, who be more Ayawas West work on at the end of the day, a creative fear and suspicion. My force on the other side might want to react. And some of these things, the consequences, a year name because the experiences Ghanaians have had in the last 6 to 7 years going into the next 8 years, and I have 2024 elections, I am not sure, say Ghana maybe a better baby. So be the military, and I say armed bandit to be a question baby vigilante group, Ghana for people will do whatever that it takes to resist any oppression going into the 2020 elections. So, and until I say you training your police, to be professional, crowd control, no kind of to me, I deal live with any possible hostile situation. Then I say you could soldier for who are trigger happy, you could vigilante for who are trigger happier. Any least provocation beyond, they just go for the gun and they will be shooting down people. So I think that this particular success now, Assin North, should be replicated going to the main elections. Those individuals are dressing in a uniform, you can identify them. Not see same police, the strategy that they adopted in the insurance, even individuals who are more in military camouflage and as a form, they bit me dealing with them. Unfortunately, the part it take shine from what happened is after the elections, individuals who were cited, individuals who were caught up, those with guns and then as a form, there hasn't been any update on any of them as to whether they are facing prosecution, as to whether something is going on. A bit mere deter the general public from further engagement going into the future. Any briefing, any update from the police after the elections. Now, of course, I'm hoping that a lot of concerned Ghanaians want to hear about what has become of those issues as to whether individuals discharge and I say the usual partisan influences now the executive to a certain extent prevail on them to let them go. Lessons been a year free on that particular score. I think say honso na ye on the same police. I think the last time I also raised concern about the fact yet my young men are more rescue my life on daily basis, trying to protect the citizens and not yet provide security for this particular country on 2 occasions. I did William Vanachi ama ebinuma konyo muwo in these 2 instances in the scene there in closure to any of these issues. And to me, I think it's a serious security concern and by now Parliament I reconvene Ababaki. I was expecting IGP by now, your friend to appear before Parliament to answer critical questions as to why because we were given assurance by the your friend saying IGP now call and say banks need to provide billion vans are a standard police in EB and DHR, but you who the video now call so quite recently the same car na biana police in Itima. Unfortunately, Sansem we see so Nanka was expecting says Anima we yes, ye bit to me aye. Na aye say ye you should this say a reference point are going forward, something of this nature will not happen because a BBC no one be and free man. You can never move on as a country. That is why they see about 2 years ago. Yet me boy yanka individuals nim say omoye police for sebi omo no mo hyesa na na chi na nanka we were hoping say police for mpanyin for be use omo aboa amaya get to the bottom of the issue under certain mysterious circumstances, ahomache na police for na fa omudi omochi kobo omutu ku omo killing them means ya killing the investigation, and up to now the police administration hasn't been able to brief the general public as to what has become of those issues. And no, and another one as saying, you know, that is why I'm telling you, say in any serious country, the head of the IGP will be on the chopping board, and as a parliament might be interested in asking questions as to why some of these things has been happening on a consistent streak. We don't seem to be finding a solution, a lasting solution, because police for now more life, air corner, a matter, especially the young guys sebi omuko police they are the very people who are very often sent on these assignments. So I've known the day, you know, but a young guy, wakrana mama and papa so police, because of negligence on the part of the entire police administration. Nothing happens to the family. Na and I'll have a free bar. Your mind bibi. That is why another last time on the Captain Smart show, I may try and I may catch or say countries be a go any such tragedy in their hands. What they do is they try to learn. Now a market say going forward, you know, we are doing things differently. Now may catch what happened in Mexico. Abra US DEA agent FNA Enrique Kiki Camarena Yakobo Yachi no torture no kuno no. That particular act no Emma the US DEA the entire we know a wagey war on saying all the drug laws or more Mexico extended yet to even Colombia, because the issue happened in 1985. Echo drew 1993 Hobby Pablo Escobar Babio be near Tunase. And Oko or more no more yet the same business, you know, or Mexico. Places like Tijuana, the fence at Chihuahua, and Sinaloa, and Nasefonoma, Sankrofoni, they rain hell on them, because immediately after Kiki's death, you know, they launched an operation called Operation Legend. That was the biggest homicide investigation the DEA has ever embarked on in its history, because one of them was killed, and that marked the beginning of a next level war, and the fight against drug in Mexico. Enti saadi ni siya no became a turning point. Yatena kroma ama yaku police ni baako or in wati bullion vine mo yenyina yehu se abra na abrante no take na de yefa invest kwara na onshebi etu a na esi ne nan so ayesa atuo tenten na de take car front etu de edian untumi nyi sa atuo no ubey wadwen se wuyi no na yefa se kromfo no wakun dada, because I heard they see quite recently ya police in new crate about AK-47 ten esi ne nan so front in car ketuom. That is why the armed robber was able to open the door from the outside, because security consciousness on the part of even the two of them in the car was quite poor. That is why Otim BA from the outside, and then he shot them. He shot them on Ukra pistol. And that police in a trained police officer, no minimum Ukra side arms, but from the video then I nothing shows say he had a side arm with him. Sa to tintin and they see the naso. So the question is that Ben and a BBC use as a reference point. A country who say a deal with yesi going forward and a being CBM. Tragedy in the sea. Now ya market a celebrity. Then we go into the next one. A seat now ya kasani you move to the next level. We don't learn. A culture say when that thing happened in 1985. US in the drug enforcement agency. Omo history mono that death no a market then next level the friend saying war ye wage and uko omo history ma forever a leave certain indelible imprinter a didima besina nano the last one a womb a ye your friend saying Joaquim Guzman are popularly known as El Chapo yakofa no free Mexico nano and on also the prison US. So that particular incident, one officer in the United States of America, DEA agent, or no Mexican American, but and stop America from waging war on drug, your friend saying, Lord, various cartels are no more fighting. Enti Ghana, your kusoja ni baako, Captain Mahama, a toy. Now no ye be obi the same in the same faction, and they see na no other. They see na no other. I'm told say even persons behind it, they see the cry young investigation no there na kwakwesi, because the general public are very much concerned about they see who is briefing who. Comakacho says security isn't just about seeing police around masquerading and parading with guns and munitions and those things. That is not security. Security on a larger extent and a state of mind, how people feel they are comfortable. So when you have some of these issues lacking and they remain unaddressed, a man for a quite apprehensive, and that creates sense of insecurity. And not on its own is the largest form of insecurity that you can think of. So the SC, a police young officer was swore an oath to serve the country, a committee such tragic death because ambassador and panimfo no motete officer going up and down, they don't suffer. Because officer will not go on the roadside. Panimfo who are supposed to provide the needed incentive for these young guys to be able to work in a very conducive environment. And I'm so who been Vesta yem provide them dancer unya papa incentive working conditions in phone are very poor. So the person will go to the roadside so already crying why demoralized that would need any motivation and translate it into the kind of poor job by you. Because a video now here and one thing and they're quite classic. We'll be saying saying a police near a trained police officer, the security consciousness, a app, no, the banner saying on a no driver take a map. Will be maybe be a door from the outside. And the agent did he do any scanning around, looking around to see if there are suspicious elements to do or answer a be a door now. All these things were not done. Then you go back to ask critical questions as to how you're training even your guys, how you go into the your friends and the various services Chrome has my catcher say using just 3 or 6 months to train somebody to become an officer. You can only teach the person to be brutal, like or very aggressive, using guns and those things. But the mental aspect of it, are forming the most significant part of policing and military, whatever it takes, we don't pay attention to. That is why psyche evaluation and those things, we don't pay much attention to. Nippon who throw to we are children so see Jina Kwan and those things we don't delve into their mental state to understand the psyche, the mental state of Modi Kwakoye Jumano. And we just leave them. My catcher said the most dangerous thing to do. Nisa would it true will be a winning dance and some from Nipa Hobine. First, or ye oppose danger to one Kasana and to the general public. So at the end of the day, a bit defeated the purpose of sending people out there to offer us protection. That is key. And going forward, we are hoping, say, this William Van and a Yabo police need to and our corner and I say where he ended that particular trick. And ending it means that what is needed is provided. The necessary training of Muhia, young farmer, deep sense of security consciousness and awareness, how to scan around to identify what constitute threat. And then as a form, avoid all these things, And you see, problem the challenges is say a boy my going forward, and then a free ma, infuse something new into the training modalities. I had those who are going into the service, even workshop need training. I had more how do we beef up those things? Sebaya young kong sa at chem sa niema way we see because sa niema way CC on a consistent streak, there should be a broader stakeholder consultation so far as security in this particular provision of security is concerned. Because as in said the back of 14, because the very moment I see back who see me and the mishaps coming from the police service and other military aid, other security services, are enough to provoke us to engage in this defense dialogue, to be able to come out with near my bit me boying, am I yet me put your security, in a certain stage, who say yes, security, there, ya die bit me akata ya da ye betimi de ho atoso na se bibi si kra enim say ye security no assured. But if people who are charged to provide us security na ankasa are not safe in their own country, they are not safe even when they are in a uniform, they are not safe even when they are armed with guns, they are not safe even in their own territory, how much more the ordinary person only security, the ordinary person, it creates a sense of insecurity, and that render this country, your friends saying, powerless, because sense of insecurity, as a year near Kanwasem. So on that particular score, going forward, I expect the IGP to brief the general public on what has become of the various security concerns and causing happenings. And I see the yaboni to one the yabo mutu in the past investigation. They say now we need to be in the know. We are not in some communist country where in some sea because a security matter say happen here in the vacuum. Nobody will be demanding the security your friend say way to brief anybody, but happening in the open. Say yesunya the ekoso say be ya ye betimi address your friend say your security concerns in mind your team na ye hu e de ekoso. So that is just by the way. One of the issues are a topical issue after the Assin North elections now a course there has been a lot of discussion among for a case who the former Attorney General ordinary no say the Attorney General and Ankasa should file for discontinuation of Papano case na a course Dormaahene Kyei who said nipa bebre did not them then as a forum. And you see maybe this whole thing started I think that it is the premise of this particular case, and then I give rise to the many concerns among for a canon, because a lot of cases air course or court. You don't hear people calling on government to file for null prosequi and those things, but because the political stakes in the particular matter are very high, and because the government started on a very bad footing, and then that particular concern, IET into the minds of people, among for free say sebi, BBB, eshe baby ama abayno some form of witch hunting and as a phone, because abra papa no win elections a few days after na Canada Japan kokan baby say parliament even before the election obama ye na free ho. So that particular thing was the first mark on the minds of the people. Or when the process started, and if you court na odi for na in some nyina die he was asked to sit home for 1 good year. So in a period of 1 year, the people of Assin are representative. Same as what is happening in Shah, a constituency of Monsono, for about 4 or 3 years in here, Omunya representative. Nipa biya bu na ni agusu okroma no. Enti okotena afie na the period now okotena afie no nyina na the consequential orders of the Supreme Court no were being carried out because the Supreme Court say yenyinim free your man in parliament, and he was at home for 1 good year. So during that period, the Attorney General go ahead with a criminal prosecution, and then many and come for raising concern. But you waited until the Electoral Commission schedule say you by elections. That was the period that Attorney General started. So obviously, a beer because I witch hunting. For all case, I got to know if you 1 year, a solid year now, if you know. You could have started. And under certain mysterious circumstances, you had no court, all of a sudden, period now, ye be did not say, or by your campaign at the year election, at that period, none court to share, say, every day be a sober court. Come on. Come on. So these activities now are buying another Attorney General FPD into the already existing public perception. Said then the guy is being persecuted. And that became a dear number 14. And then no crying about a trump card. Emma Papa no son winning the elections now because we are buying, we are smart, now we are very reasonable. Now we need that format. Clearly, the political history in this particular country clearly are communicated to us. So what will be because of politics. Now we don't share prison. Nasa went to me in convincing grounds and tell the story to the people, say, oh, or yeah, A, B, C, D. And within this context, it's justifiable for the person to be in prison. Now, the pet. One, you are only hyping the person and giving him some form of political prominence. And so, okay, what happened to Kwame Nkrumah? Nkrumah was in prison, but he won the elections. Why? Because people felt that circumstances leading to the arrest, were politically motivated, and the government then never had any genuine grounds to be as or the Nkrumah Kotum. So people were on the street campaigning. Nkrumah was in prison. The people of Ghana sympathized with Nkrumah, and as a result, voted for him. He won his election from prison. So we are Attorney General, we are very smarter. Going into a by-election, the last thing you do is to initiate criminal proceedings. The wisest thing to do is you leave it hanging so the people will not be sure as to whether the person will be prosecuted or not. Ebasa, ebianka, NDC krane, ebehunuhunomo, ama, ombetimi drop papa no. But enam say the government failed to be reasonable and politically savvy, no? And as usual, emotional kind of leadership na yedimirika within the period that you scheduled for by-election. That was the same period that Attorney General initiated that particular criminal proceedings against him. And they got the court to agree, say, every day be over court. So obviously, this activities na more learning happening na one. It was giving the guy political prominence. The people will sympathize with him on the election day. Again, government, you are also feeding into already existing public perception, say he's been persecuted. So trying to explain why Dormaahene said what he said, So with all this perception on the minds of people out there, Nasa will go into by election now called winning year. Now some basa will be prosecuted to be then Neman we proud to the election will spring back. Especially when you have the president going to Assin North to tell the people, say, oh, I didn't know something about Mobi or prison. That wasn't a prejudicial statement because the case was in court. But me believe in this contempt of court outside the perimeters of the court. I have said that it's a foolish law that has outlived its essence and relevance in a liberal society like ours. Until when it comes to say statement to be outside court, unless it said the person is deliberately casting some serious slur on the integrity of the court, a bit to me affecting the discharge of the court duty. But any comment among for in the liberal environment where we find ourselves in such contempt of court outside court, is absolutely useless. That is why some countries have gone to the extent of expunging those things out of saying or more system juma court now could denigrate court in the courtroom you'll be dealt with. But outside among for and I don't know who decide say they before in the case of contempt because they are say what denigrating or no one I'm not trial. Does it make sense? That is why I don't believe in those things. But President Kohoko make it that particular comment. Say, Nipa, Oko prison. Why must you vote for that person? And that statement was very instructive. Very, 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 very instructive. And he commented on President Kyei after the election, any attempt to be will make it so prosecuting will be will go back to confirm the president's statement. Because prior to the election, Metana Babika said the Attorney General may have legitimate grounds to prosecute the Chikwesen. But for the statement of making the actions and the inactions of the AG himself and that of the president, it will be very difficult for them to win public support. And it's the reason why all these people are coming out say, because the people still have affirmed their trust and confidence in the man. Say only the omo. And because of statement and some no, it doesn't matter the kind of fair trial papa no go through. Definitely, a man for will not trust it. My culture say in dispensing justice, it is never about just dispensing justice, but dispensing justice to uphold society together. So any justice be a officer will dispense it, and that has the probability and also the potency to disorganize society. That is not justice, it is a nuisance. So it is out of that these people are offering an advice to the president. And again, Assin North, he wasn't interfering with any court proceedings. And he was not even calling on the court. Matter say, yes, you're a judge, and he's akin to, but the problem is, he wasn't making any appeal to the court, and he was not asking the court to do anything because court really need to file for null prosequi. Judges need power to file for null prosequi. Nipa no dia seven coin, which is government. And in government, everybody has a stake. So calling on the AG, that is represented by government, the AG that is representing government. So he's calling the AG because AG didn't have power. Court in that in baby, what they are seven qua and what the amount, uko yifru ha or new case. And Nipa no dia seven coin, and I'll call it on him, not the court. So those saying say statement here prejudicial, no, he was not asking the court, rather asking the AG that is outside the perimeters of the court in this particular contest. So the AG here represents the government. So on discontinue the case. So discontinue the case, has nothing to do with judges and the kind of role for more play. They are two distant issues. You can't want them here. So I don't see why this hula balu among for gidi. And besides, letter na Attorney General the Babon. Yes, I agree with him. And he said Obia making comment cases I cost for court and then so forth. But the issue is that the same case was in court when the president made those comments. So I was expecting Senka Godfrey Dame the letter not trouble because he deliberately mentioned politicians, traditional leaders. That traditional leaders in that context, he was referring to Dormaahene. Then he was referring to a former appointees and like anybody and Ghanaian, the general public. But he failed to caution the president because the president was the first person to set the ball rolling. And Sensama Dormaahene, lawyer Kyei Otu, and several others calling on government, almost if you president, because president, you are no longer seen as a partisan element, or you become the soul of the country, a symbol. Into a statement I will make it quite instructive. Into Pabontina Kokansa Semna. Makato said in the future, it doesn't matter the kind of fair ruling the judges at the Babontin. Still, people will disagree. Into President Numum, Nama judges in Ejuma Ayaden are ruling the Babontin. It doesn't matter, baby, the Kobia. The Jachuquest in deep Bema, a hot hair, among for Ebediatum, but in an instance where Obedi Fono. People will go back and say, Mr. President Cracker say Oko prison. And this is the danger the entire government machinery and the architecture face. And to avoid that, that is why these people are preempting government, not the court. Say, if that is the case, then it is quite instructive to file for null prosequi. Then discontinue the case, now you outcome be because the outcome not bad. Yes, why you born? Mase mrano, wa from mra. State, I will every right to prosecute him. That is one angle. And in prosecuting him, if that also cast doubt on the integrity and the competence of the court, that has to be addressed as well. So, a issue I namha, your obeteki. Nobody is campaigning say Jachikwesi in for Umobinjano. But a statement as if for na akosono. And then they give birth to the kind of concerns being expressed by people out there. And it says, yeah, those statements no so koso. Asem no court, obi ko kan bi ayedo ngawo. But I buy him paying for the Kokambia because a brandy or Kasaya, Attorney General Yankasa on several instances. I'm making it public. Said the guy is going to prison. He will be jailed. You have said worse things than what the general public than the Dormaahene can. And when he said those things, one tis will be commented, one tis will be kasa. By the Dormaahene the York Kyei, among for the atful chopping board, so na ye dinner tem left, right, center, and that and then they expose the kind of hypocrisy a Ghana for away you move. Assembly can be a try baby a before bansa. That is the level of hypocrisy that is so staggering and that is so incendiary, said the Debia Mexicano. Because you go back to the root of this particular matter, we all know where it started from. The 49 Kasana wrong that. Ruling the Bible, court no amount for a cancer because as long as we waste time on this particular matter, people will constantly be dragging the integrity of the court so far as their neutrality is concerned. And if they play into the president comment I want make that will only go to affirm people's suspicion and the kind of offense a doubt among forward. So to avoid that, it is only in the president Nankasa interest and in the interest of the court to discontinue the case. But if government still think they have enough grounds to go ahead with the case, so be it. But I am saying this because Dormaahene some more kind when some more kind because of the akoso and what is to come, and then in an event the guy is found guilty. He may be found guilty on the grounds where legitimate, legal, right, fair, firm. It's possible. But enuncia then because of the Assin. Still, that interpretation will still come on. And that will endanger your court and the credibility. That will also endanger the credibility of the president and the entire offense judicial machinery in this country. So all what these people are calling for is that let us avoid what is to come in the future, because say ankoye lucky say papa na ankoye lucky na ekotia na, the ruling will only be affirming people's suspicion, will only be affirming the president's earlier comment, and will be affirming the concerns that people have. So to avoid that, because in some places you Okroma, but he has never said here discontinue on case. Are you to as a former attorney general or he has never, but they are saying this to avoid what is to come because of what has happened in the past. Some comment are causal, and that is all that this is about. So on that particular note, may leave that particular matter there, and then we move on. But I think that it is also instructive. There be a set of missy assembly so be a nipa in Suya, ye nipa ye reactionary. Yam fundim dear and ye juma. And intina ye brana ye gusu ye bray. Ye bukuswa bra until say a bashas you see a dream. Because last number catcher say, a dear yankopon the money per be was as so the bedi ye be. Unfortunately, those of us in the West Africa has said they were maybe. When it comes to human resources, you will be gold, you will be diamond, you will be VBR, you will be. But again, a bit me they are tapping into those things. Now I am so resourceful to benefit us and our progress, our development, and even our future generation. And on our Kyei, I catch us all natural resources we are seeing and we nim signing in our qua. A man for the baby by Sisako. And your gold near diamond near oil, and as a for shots, your Kyei and Yan, the sin there in young Yansa to put them into good use. And countries are advancing based on our resources. And let China feel comfortable coming to Africa, what your friend is saying Africa into a farmland, taking all the resources away too. Or not, they could be full a contest with America, so far as security is concerned. Because those radioactive materials, move here to beef up their military, setups ni nyinaa no, they are taking it from Africa. Ye nimdeɛ yɛde yɛ nimdeɛ enni hɔ. And those who are thriving on the knowledge economies too are thriving. That knowledge, we don't have it here. If you go to the US, the knowledge economy thriving very well. Ni nyinaa yɛ nibi. And ye waste ye ho problem by ye kasafa ho. Me say ye pese asem we yes ye bin si bi ma. We need to find a lasting solution to this citizenship allegiance. Obiti amanone nipa no right or contest for MP only right. Let us define all these things in clear terms. Sebaya yenya ye fense similar case in the future. Any and sambim. Koma kacho sasa wohe ye court ye mrana ikrayena. There are a lot of gray areas in our law because you're try yache, and it is time for say you define, now you review your constitution. We need to do massive constitutional re-engineering to be able to update portions of our constitution. Say by ya, ebe senke with the modern terrain. Eba sa the excessive discretionary powers are. Yedema judges sitting in the court and interpreting the law in a way they deem fit, they deem necessary, which may not be entirely right. We will take away those discretionary powers from them. And at the end of the day, you will be on the same pedestal because so one define what constitutes allegiance, one define what constitutes citizenship. Now one define in clear terms, say obi a Ghana ni no cromine for passport. Ultimately contested for MP. Now allegiance going forward, and yet citizenship, you cannot equate it to citizenship. And now say going forward, allegiance means not having dual citizenship. And the obi wo dual citizen, obi Ghana ni okra single passport. The passport here, Ghana passport. Now o make an attempt to overthrow or your friends saying. The person can be charged for treason, and that treason means that the allegiance of that person to the state, is wavered. So in that case, can you say that person own allegiance to this country? You can't. So equating allegiance to citizenship to a certain extent, I think say. Say na ye ka ho nsemiye ye metanasia man nsan mesibiem because adamu sakande de see na that particular rule no bae. Across the political divide there must be certain energy on the part of our parliamentarians going forward yen settle this matter but abaye NDC jinafa na MPP jinafa we tobo we no we atwabo we tobo we no we atwabo we. If we don't define those things, now you're making sure that there is clarity on those portions. Now you leave no bad. Then you can't blame any judge if you already ruling the Bible because the person will only go back to one kasani understanding to offer interpretation. Especially abra yawo your friend say president that will be equated that particular thing. No, so ruling no bad. You can't begrudge the person. That is why ruling the Bible and say a man for a kind of Supreme Court. I never commented because the irony in the past, need the kind of president that it makes it quite impossible to do any logical and reasonable argument. Say, oh, the Kasati IGP so the ruling about because we've given them as enough discretionary powers to exercise, and when a judge exercising the discretionary powers are obey them. But we can take away that by defining those things. And again, Abra Ben. Ena obi eye MP abra ben abra nipa na ka kire ne party for abra nipa na kofa forms abra nipa na yato abama na wie abra yaso ne in our parliament na. You see, these things are not clearly defined in our constitution. So what the court but then it become incumbent upon a judge to rely on his personal discretion or maybe make reference to past rulings. No, they are you wouldn't define it, and the other kind of yajatum. That is why there was this back and forth on this particular issue. Of judges will be an interpretation depending on where the person stands. But we can still cure these things But as usual, we are not interested. You better another one about being near San Away war. We can't kwa hano, we can't kwa, we can't kwa, San yet ye. Yinsuan dear, and a Yinsuan yansa. Into the beer, you better I'm a problem number. Problem number 2 year we are. Nafi, ye kufa hon sa. Let us start it now. Citizenship, allegiance, at what time, NOB, and several other portions. I owe your constitution in my some ambiguity, hang on, so that those provisions will be quite explicit. Because maybe I cannot offer any implicit interpretation to a constitutional a provision. Same with a lawyer. We a lawyer, person and dear kusi osoro. Basic form. Your implicit interpretation of a constitutional provision, a matter, even in a courtroom. That is why even judge, who lawyers who go into the court, they are very knowledgeable, very experienced lawyers, judges, and so forth. But because your implicit interpretation for so be any so our judge and anything, would make a such random code to article and answer for them who are about to go. You can't do anything. You can't do anything because it is not your job to offer your friend is saying implicitly interpret your constitutional provision in the court. A judge judge and I just serve one with the sole power and the sole discretion to do that. Or implicitly how he or she feels about the law is acceptable in court. And how do we deal with the situation? By ensuring we will not move to the implicit state, but explicitly the laws will be quite clear in unambiguous terms. Unko law school when you boss for say net so say judge no kono obu na go so na offer different interpretation and then you have the right to argue. But until say be yes anema no na you define those things na the ambiguity we na wo the gray areas na so for no ye yi ni nyina free ho no ye yi ni nyina free ho no kire say we are taking away the excessive discretionary powers judges are given. Until really no bad, it's quite clear. Especially in our settings where judges can be biased, judges can be corrupt, judges can be do a whole lot of stuff. And I'm saying this based on Anna's investigation by we saw the report. Judge Oji Aponchindu Nipa Nyamia Bona Koto prison. Judge Oji Baire. A chiro say in as much as we hold our judges in higher esteem, you free so more and your money na any papa. Don't know how bonny or team. So just imagine coming from this background. Now you give you such enormous discretionary power to a judge who is corrupt, who is criminal. You can imagine what they will do with it. Just imagine. Judge Oji Aponchi. Judge ye man a girl on na kwakwada no was sentenced obi na to prison. Judge Oji Baire, Judge Oji Wachi. Na dia bi mbi no ntimi nje. Next time obatina ya abankwan ama no na enam so no o de obi akoto prison. So such a person now one man is sole discretion to ono ankasa implicitly or interpret a constitutional provision. You can imagine. You put you in danger. That is why we need to, because judges are judges here bias in the Western world. Very often some of these things very common. Ideological defense kind of contest, ideological biases and more, because you have the conservatives and then you have the liberals. So here this LGBT blah 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 one who say equality act now US for trying to push it through the conservatives are pushing against it and they have the grounding because the US Supreme Court more rainy. So those LGBT laws and so forth are being threatened, because if you take it to a conservative courtroom, they don't tolerate those such nonsense. They don't. So you don't expect a conservative judge to give you a pat in the back and say go through. You will not. That is why Republicans in the making sure say or more majority, overwhelming majority our Supreme Court. Not all judge no kwaje by not so kwaje sika, but ideologically no. Every conservative no you fancy anti-abortionist. So what the abortion but that is why 50 years way down Roy this time and I'm to go here because when him say unfortunately no, about 6 or 7 of the 9 Supreme Court judges no, they were all Roman Catholics, and Roman Catholics are purely conservatives. Yes, there are fewer or more exposure or more liberal exposure. Joe Biden one of them. And Nancy Pelosi, former speaker US, and also a Roman Catholic, but with liberal exposure, no, they now belong to the other side. Joe Biden, who or spearhead LGBT, gay rights, and abortion. Go back to 1995. Go back to even 2000. Go and listen to him. He was vehemently against the LGBT because then, no. Now the conservative element, na daddy, na woni mu ankasa. Na liberalism no nyam wura de mu wie. On a platform na or ye debate, he was purely against LGBT, purely against the fence abortion. But then we flip it to the other side because his constant exposure to your friend saying being liberal. He said your friend say I don't know I could do. So the biases over there no are limited to ideology, but you have any ideology. Judge besho when ma kwaji appoint me kwaji sika obekwa kwaji asase e the ruling about ntin wo hwe ruling no matimu se bia akra masa ruling but the trouble or that ho wo ye den koka. And I am telling you, say in a world where the world is driving to know, everybody will be held accountable for their way. Because judges, and your bosom sika na editu omoka taxpayers' money. And whoever feed from taxes must be held responsible and accountable. I don't agree, say, obi enko disrespect the court. Obi ndidi judge atem, obi embu court when intia. No, I will never sign for that. But constructive criticism, because they are not above reproach, they are not above the law, and that tendency say human beings can be evil, no? Some of them can also be evil because and announce exposure say yes, some of them can be corrupt. And the Attorney General, the AG's report about saying that is the Auditor General report about 2 years ago. Some of them at the 5,000 car, a beginning to 3,000 car. When you're corrupt, obey this Jumano. What I say? So now, no, we have the luxury of time to be able to look forward and see what we want as people. Let's sit down and have your friend saying, broader stakeholder engagement. So Ghana needs US, Ghana needs Canada, Ghana needs Australia. Now hold dual citizenship. Is it right? Any panabit me aba contest for MP. Say ania. What is the argument for? Say dabia. What is the argument for? At the end of the day, you're running around it, and then we can come to a common grounds. And then say you're banning and you're banning. Say you're jiatuma, you're jiatum. Then we move on. But we cannot allow this kind of ambiguity to be hanging. Where the only thing that connects dual citizenship to your friend is saying allegiance in our constitution, and they say the only thing that connects allegiance to citizenship in this particular context, they say, we could have passport for 2 countries. I think we need to look at that portion as well. So minja no hona, you move forward. But as usual, meaning say even this, nobody will even talk about it until say about another one I see. And another one so we see CBM. Na yabeba BM. Na yaba kasa kasa the traditional media, that is what they do best. But I believe say journalism is be able to provide grounds for political actors to think, the stakeholders in our political enterprise, and always, you need people who are very reasonable among familiar research to provide the basis upon which a politician may so and making informed decisions, informed political choices. But the kind of journalism that we do here is to sing praises for people, sit on radio and be praising people, mentioning their names. That's all that journalism is about. The constructive component of it, that is meant for change. I bet me change for good, No. We don't pay much attention to those things. So I think that is key as you share that particular portion. And then the last bit, the LGBTQ, blah, 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 blah. My discussion also. I think that okay, Ivan, why has the EC been left off Kwesi's case? Okay, let me read this and address it. Ivan, why has EC been left off Kwesi's case currently in court? Because the EC examined thoroughly. Okay, yes, Mahu, a lot of people coming up with this argument, and it's simple. You say Electoral Commission, a share Jachi Kwesi in the paper sim. I'm finding no fault. A claim is uncontested. And this say easier clear there, then there is no basis for Supreme Court to hold him accountable for the I say you will be blamuna. I say easy and you blame no. That is not the case. The mere fact that the Electoral Commission gave him a pass, doesn't mean say you're finding anything wrong. Court ain't been decided. So in a law of contract, you can agree. You can have an agreement with somebody, signed. I'm go to my agree, but later, if it is later discovered, say the agreement, which is supposed to be binding, was on the basis of fraud. Fraud vitiates everything. It doesn't matter who and who agree, who and who witness, where and where you sign. Even say Supreme Court judge, and later an element of fraud is discovered. Say the whole contract was built on the basis of fraud. That the fraud element will vitiate the entire contract. It will declare it null and void. So the mere fact that the Electoral Commission, Electoral Commission and your court, within their powers what they could do. But court the powers to go details into some of these things where proper investigation will come in, and in their findings, who says something wrong, not a tomra, they have every right to cancel that election. I am not saying say what the court did now right and I say wrong, but on that basis, the mere fact that is clear, doesn't mean say later no muko who and be say within the period, and the EC period is time bound. They might not be privy to all the information, and as a time may not be on their side to be able to ascertain fairly all the relevant documents to be able to arrive at a definitive conclusion. And no, Papa we okura citizenship. So easy there, don't bet me within that period and me, I don't begrudge them. So be time case in the court to be na say further evidence babon thing are truly actually say nipa no nkrata ne niema a wode baaye no emfa mra kwan so ne nasefo a then the court has every right, and the Electoral Commission or exercising no duty ewo kwan ya obetimi so unless say evidence to prove say they saw say unqualified but they neglected it. And no, they can also be cited for negligence of duty. Omunim pass and unqualified, but omubu money so pass him and if you have evidence, but until that, they will tell you say within the remit of the resources, time, and the information that was available to them at the time, no, they felt say na qualified. And this a court, a broader investigation, only enough time I go into no who say near Mabakwana mean be unquia. And no to me, the fact that easier passing or no cannot stop the court from passing or giving a judgment. So on that part, who's a lot of people raise it that particular way, but that argument, will not fly in the face of any logic because electoral commission, even though on an award, yes or yeah, there, but the mere fact is, one who doesn't mean say in the future, no, you could. That is why I make a contract. When a contract is built on fraud, na ubiaji tumna binding bibiana later. You could say, especially a player called Real Madrid, no, I could sign contract in the age of the coy a year 20. Now ya promise your money sikanen as a form later they discover say age not the buy in a class how boy 20 or 30 year. That element of fraud now what can say no can render the contract null and void. It can or it could, depending on the circumstances. Yeah, so in the case of LGBT, who say a lot of discussion also LGBT. I say maybe where I'm coming from, I don't subscribe to those things. And say idea where a course of parliament go through and we succeed in criminalizing it. It's cool because within our cultural settings, I think we need to give our culture some essence and prominence because in the Western world, polygamy amongst us also and ubia M40 or more. But the immense also say yes, it will be LGBT, say no. But say if you are able to criminalize that particular thing, because as a health personnel, meaning your friend is saying even health implications are if you engage yourself in those things, the consequences so far as the health of the persons involved in these things are concerned. If you on that particular basis, I can draw conclusions and say no, I'm not for these things. But the reality is, you see, energy young criminalizing. You see, I think that there are bigger portions you're leaving behind, and we are not looking at those things. The last time I was talking about your culture. How well are we giving our culture certain prominence, even within our context? Because there is this global culture that is being inserted over. And whether you like it or not, maybe one way or the other, you are being exposed. Oba is being exposed. Because you see, I'm robbery, I'm robber, chrono, illegal. It has been criminalized in our laws. Our laws frown those things, but every day we are chrono. So the me say yes, the laws must go through then as for but the mere fact does not necessarily mean it's going to end there. That will be a starting point. So we need to go even beyond setting those regulations and other stuff because me say unconsciously, these people psychologically are waging some, if I say, psychological warfare on our minds, on our children, because they are the target. Trying to normalize this whole concept of LGBT, gayism, and whatever, making it look like normal. Go back to Netflix, go back to Amazon, go back to Apple Plus, TV, cartoons or never all the movies na eba ni nyina. These people are so resourceful enough say they've been able to insert portions of this gayism, lesbianism, those stuff into those movies in an attempt to normalize it psychologically. So constantly as you get exposed to those things, beginning who are your time, but as you continue to watch those things, your mind will find certain normalcy with it, and you'll be cool with it. So in the future, who so be no be yes idea na already no mind accept it and normalize and so you don't see those things. That is what they are doing. So at the parliament LGBT blah blah we do obiatem obati fie kura tablet Netflix, because the advertisement for LGBT is being done right in your house, in your house. And an LGBT advert in the yen wo fie oba what parliament the LGBT blah blah no oba ti fie LGBT advert in the movie, in the cartoon and as a form. So you think you are winning the war by weaving laws to regulate it, but you are losing it even in your homes. This is key thing nobody has paid attention to. At the parliament, LGBT gigi ene yebe kuye ho ene yebe yese ene wo ye dan LGBT for na ya advert wo dem a wo da wo oba at the TV ho hwe. And then because we have not given our culture any prominence. Movies in our Western culture, Western exposure. Because I want the last time I come about the creative industry, the creative art industry. Movie bang, and yeah, no ha, I so educative enough to say, Oba Pesa Oba and Congo Shebi. Kuma wood movie no more start your model by no big, yes, ya na ya tem did ye. Ye dear attempt from the beginning to the end. Using vulgar language from the beginning to the end. The storyline is poor, doesn't follow any format, no logic, absolutely nothing. So you, and nobody is venturing into that particular corner to ensure say we infuse a bit of our culture into those things so that we can reinstate and affirm our cultural stance in our kids, in our children. So within our context, there is no culture. If there is no culture, then it must be replaced with something else. And that thing is the Western culture that is coming. Because we have created a vacuum, and that vacuum must be filled. There is no culture of ours to fill that vacuum. Then there is a Western culture that will come and fill the vacuum. Especially in an era where our television stations constantly and consistently have been exposing our people to Indian movies, a country learning Indian culture. Because you see, one of the classical ways of telling a story, advertising a country's culture, is through movies and those stuff. That is the most effective way of communicating your cultural stance with your people. But that channels, those arena, ya tuogu, and a German microphobinum and a moyen biara. If you're in the YouTube by Ukraine, just go and look at the kind of content people are building on various social media platforms, because you're monetizing and go and look at the things they're putting out there. And these are things that Ukraine consuming on daily basis. And those Western stuff. So I thought that if Obi na didn't way, Obi na didn't advert by or say that Obi motto or say if it must be done well, wholly and comprehensively, so that you don't leave any doors behind. We are carving the mreba to regulate it, to ban it, then as a form. But the advert is going on in our houses because we have failed to provide an alternative to the emergence of the Western culture in our urban. We accept it in our schools, everywhere. So a time will come, I quite say in suo, eba, a flow bagidi, now what me the idea tarano, not one sa a tertiary. What one sabbat tertiary, I bedo a ruba brobe germ, no bua faso. Sana LGBT way na ye. say you're not very strategic, you're not very reasonable. Now I'm tenacity and now I'm finding a way to curb and deal with this emerging threat. Now you're by the showmanship, yet TV so no be a castle when I am pen, I DNA, Yame mine, I say, you limited the argument to just that. Trust me. It be fire so, and we can't do anything about it. So beyond the legislation, we need to do extra stuff to be able to ensure, say yes, say ampa, yenjisa nyamanum, na say your culture effort on those things, then we really mean business. Then, so let us tell our story so that our children will know, say, maybe a free bar, maybe a free bar, no, so no sa way, this is our culture, and we don't accept those things. And if you identify yourself with us, so we need more identity, now we need to be a ufra. Then remember always that idea your friend to lesbianism, where we come from, we don't accept. So it doesn't matter how far you go, it doesn't matter how your friends are connected, you become with the Western world, no, maybe and always remember your root, where you come from, these things against our culture, until we are able to package this statement and roll it out there for people to accept, you know. The Beye did that in parliament, a bit in the Maranaba, but still it will go on. Yes, because there is no Ghanaian movie telling any Ghanaian story. A India movie, and you see, people who are behind these things, you know, sometimes some don't think. The almost a movie never and almost show keke. But the psychological warfare that is being waged, trying to realign and reassign the minds of the old kids to a different cultural defense saying contest, you know, they don't see those things. Until now, they say, oh, I'm the advert so, you know, we need to be very sensible. You don't just watch a movie for watching sake. And then if I effect, every movie that you watch comes with some psychological, your friend is saying, exposure be about so. Consciously or unconsciously. That is why sometimes we movie be what to why no moto or muno, what to when you because you remember it from the movie. So it is one of the classic way of telling a story. If you want to influence society, that's what you do. So the Indian movie is done in the context. Try to send a particular signals to conscientize people there to do something. Yet, that is what we are putting on our TV screens. We don't feel ashamed. Parliament is not interested. No, maya comfort me kwa TV. So ka say, me yesika duro na opesika faka osi malam jansinya in a national TV. In a TV station, or maya president womb, parliamentarians womb, ministers womb, minority womb, majority womb. These things, communication minister, and not the Quatana parliament in class, some qua. Not den. Sanyama wing, pass it through our television stations, na a cop. So for to me the bag, Quatana TV, so say, or young kunya, na yankopon disca, such class, 7 year cost away TV, so a year me. And we are pretending, say, we are curbing LGBT bang because I don't know what the parliament or Shamrano. There's all Shamra a criminalize the idea and the hard as there is no need for security then as for because it's Yamra so be kuninuya. But there be a nipo kunipa oh chroma. What is stories, you know? It's Yamra so be chrono, there be a bochrono chroma. So it is not about just the legislation. The legislation is just one aspect of it. It's just one aspect of it. So say because there hasn't been any comprehensive approach in dealing with this particular matter. You start here. You started from a stance where we'll be able to control the minds of our people. Where we'll be able to take charge because our mind be able to lose control. Now won't be driving the thinking and the psyche of your people. No, that country is dead. That is why America may draft military men into war. I'm for tincham say, oh, na say war with them family. War where make sense. But they draft military men who are willing and ever ready to go and die for their country. Do you know why? Because the state is in tune with the mindset of the people. So they know how to wind and tune it to suit whatever the country wants to achieve at any point in time. Because a country that loses touch with the mindset of its people, that country is doomed. And one of the easiest way of doing that is giving other culture such prominence, a prominence on such a large scale. And that is exactly what we are doing here. That's exactly what we are doing. Giving other people's culture prominence through movies, telling their stories, the way they do things, the way they go about things, watching movies out there, Netflix, they are subscribing to Obanaba and the cartoons are nina and lesbianism, lesbobo, yes. You see, so what can I say? Oh, Shemra. Lesbianism, no, yana bonten or watching the them. So if what we are seeking to avoid, your friend saying the health implications about them na no until them run or obi them. Even where you have evidence obi no be them or more yes no, you can invade on somebody's privacy. So the legislation, no, I am not condemning, is good, but let us know that it is just one aspect. One aspect. We need to do a lot of stuff because you see, those who are behind these things are very resourceful. They wield a lot of influence and they have a lot of backings. Because I will hear quite a fast one. Omo atimi and navigating through the storms even in America, because trust me, the conservatives front on this particular thing. They hate it. They don't like it. But one way or the other, it is in play in America. It is now that some of the states, move on to come out with some regulations about limiting some of this transgender, blah, blah, blah. Because they know, say, of course, Supreme Court and now, if you go to the Supreme Court, those who are there are purely conservatives. And it is likely that they will get their way through. That is why some of the states in Ashas pick up those issues, So even in America, it's not everybody that is for those things. But at the end of kasa na ye kasa fan samuhona and we are just looking at just a narrow scope. We're looking at it from a very narrow scope. Very narrow scope. Where the other big doors, we've left it ajar. Because see how interesting it is. An MP, very energetic, sitting in parliament. LGBT, no, more boy, yeah, Christopher, yeah, LGBT, yeah, G, yeah, Botugu, yeah, Christopher, mine. Nebati fie kura tablet. Ehwe gay movie. Niba kura tablet etifie. Ehwe lesbianism movie. Owi a okọ school okọ ni nuanom. Ono mo koye experiment. Enti energy ni dede na wo de ti wa koye sa ade ni nyina na wa bragu. That is why we need a very comprehensive and a holistic approach in dealing with this particular thing. In some like this, you tena se dwene ho yie. So whenever you are rolling out solution to address it, it will not just be one side, but because the most threatening, and I hear them share our movies in Nassau, that is the most threatening. And the fact is that we are losing grips on our own culture. There is no culture. Ghana, there is absolutely no culture. Culture ben. Culture ben. Culture no even. And the other side that is creeping in. This your friend saying immorality are taking over. Mpanimfo obokrono, mpanimfo kasa fi, mpanimfo ye nema sabi. So culture no he. Mpanimfo na nkasa kra no recognize ahemfo who are supposed to be the gatekeepers no. Omo ton sase. Edema galamseyes. Moral right be no na akon so culture ben. Enti abrante no kra hu ohene na mfa respect bi aman because ohene no e ton sase a omo emrante ne behia de ayade no waton agiska no de fa nkora o de ware nkora ohere ne ton saase no de ware nkora mayowa respect no he na hwan na give prominence to culture ben the air movies no can some foforo another way of telling our story through music and on meje ha no mo ka ye fen say omo ka omo to nwom kran say mo ka mo kura wonti de omo ka nsem na nipa no ka no akasa kran ti ase ye de day sa eno a na be take over culture ne na se for my association no school na heaven na school no syllabus from mo nibi so we are just a bunch of jokers and the enemy say enim kasa yes classroom no where we should begin to counteract the negative implications of these things, by making sure say we build what do you call a firewall on the minds of our kids against this brutality. We are not. The mind, left ajar, and it must be filled. And the white man will find a way to fill it through movies, through cartoons, through those things, because but if you cry, you are distance away. So how much the Nikoja will be now called Juma, Baby man, ajo. When you are Juma, you are nurturing a criminal. Koba Benino, who control and control. Because in schools, you don't even know what they are being exposed to, what they are going through. The kind of your friend is saying, you don't know. So whenever I also acquired baby 16, 14 years, not gay, that is why when they go to secondary school, that's why they experiment those things. And I am telling you, that thing is really going on a lot in this country. In 4 years, and Korea, I saw 4 years, and it's going on. Because it's not something that, you could na market LGBT for who's LGBT gay or more down and I now station with them. It's not a public place. How often do you get a chance to invade somebody's privacy? So if you run crab in the whole year, no, a bit you must say how about you be it may happen the whole year, you may not even get one person. But now you may weave the regulations in the paper a bit because the act is done in the dark, it is done in the room. And I had the police for banana and mom for them when I want another. Is that what you're going to do? So you see that we are pursuing this with a lot of emotions. So we are not thinking, because whenever you become emotional, you lose touch with your senses. You don't reason. And this emotional approach, will push us to go and crash. That's what I'm saying, say. This law is just a tiny component of it. The larger part, has to do with how we can enhance our culture. We can do our movies well, music, how to tell our story, schools teaching our kids, churches take up this moral responsibility. But the churches, no, no, the moral component that is essential, that is supposed to occupy it on top of the mind awareness, occupy the topmost priority. Nobody cares about whether somebody is moral or not. Who cares? Nobody cares. So even within the church, lesbianism, gayism is going on. But the very fundamentals we need to pay attention to. So like I said, it is like washing your feet with your socks on. When I see your feet, and I will wear socks. And I wear the socks in the sea soon. Now, we are socks in the feeling that's a tarot 9. That's exactly what we are doing. So we need to get serious as people. The LGBT, the approach should be comprehensive. And you see, I have listened to this argument. Oh, and I get to my and you bandy and as a phone. That is when Western world, when they are dealing with you, they don't just deal with people by their faces. They deal with you by the way. So who's a winning yansa, they will deal with you in that regard. Listen, on mind Saudi Arabia, how dare you go there and say, can gay, no lesbianism, and America knows, so you can't go there and if you mention it. But one of the greatest ally of America is Saudi Arabia. One of America's greatest ally, and you know, free Saudi Arabia. Because oil no mutu, it was Saudi Arabia, a US military, the US Army, and they provided security for them. Ammunition, so here, Trump pencil, and he approved the last consignment of Munsa Kyei. All the security equipment, guns, ammunition, planes, and as a form of they buy it from the United States of America. So, America, one of the first natural allies is Saudi Arabia. And in Saudi Arabia, you can go and say, may America and human rights and the gay, but you can go there and say that. But because they know the kind of people they are dealing with them on a different level. That is how the Western world, that is the way they think. They don't look at faces, they look at the way you think. They will look at their laws again and know how to deal with you. And they will deal with you well. But and they can intimidate you. They will intimidate you. So it is about how we carry ourselves. Because America has been dealing with a lot of countries are more funny at distance, yet they are dealing with them still. They are dealing with them. So that argument, does not hold water unless in the past in the approval actually almost say they will take us like that. But yet me set here home. Should I say yes? Now by this time, how do you even go and assert yourself? Say, how do you even do that? How? On my economy not at your pants mind there. The BS or at New York. You call IMFO. How do you even convince anybody? One Kasakra and citizens, and you can't even convince them that you are in charge. So when they see that you are in this form of massive economic desperation, that you can't save yourself, you have absolutely nothing to hang on, you look like a drowning man who is clutching at straws. At that time, you need something to hold on to save yourself. Since you found us a walk, Adia behubia a homa cry, one it to your cancer, a homaya, dear also my betty. But you are a drowning man. You are only clutching at straws. So do behubia also. That is the point we've got into. We are drowning. And there is absolutely nothing to hold on to. So when the white knows that you are desperate, on your own, you have mismanaged your affairs to the extent that you cannot be proud of yourself and say, manya help or na meet me survival. Look at what happened in few months ago. And the whole country has come to a halt or minor gina. Boom. We were all waiting for IMF deal. So if you go out there and say, media and LGBT now, he will see you and say you are just a joker. That is why we need to get serious. Our talk must match with our actions. Saudi Arabia is able to sit down, negotiate with America, boot for boot. LGBT, come on, it's absolutely, I frown at it, I don't tolerate it, but we still maintain our friendship. And still, America is offering that security. From Titi, when you know. From Titi, and you know. Sa event no na precursor ma Osama bin Laden no issues no ba ye samra Afghan Soviet war omo ese calling for jihad amanfo emra me support it to fight against individuals omo fighting, and America fought alongside with these Afghans to defeat the Soviet that time. After the war no and omo fa omo ho adwen said no, America for now more Saudi Arabia, so boy oil no hobano, or finance acquine those perceived to be hooligans and as a form of and that is where this whole thing started. Tana Afghanistan draw plan and as a for who say, I say, yes, my binum so monko America. I say, how to fly a plane. It's a whole lot of story. I just don't want to divert the discussion there. It's quite interesting. So, Saudi has for a long time been the greatest ally of America. And whoever becomes the ally of America definitely become an ally of the Western world. Oil, then I say for dealings, then I say for them, because they have something to offer. So the good question is, what do we have to offer? When you Japan, you see a come, you turn be my China, you turn be my way, you the way cat, you the Bosiana Manayan. So this is the point of one who say, and so no firing at the year court. So if you don't hold on to the straws, you will drown, you'll get drawn. And this is the time for us to serve the LGBT package hot and cold for them. And let's see the way they react. That is why our president has become impotent in the face of this LGBT stuff. He's dumb. Because on such a no, the next day your economy will crash. A single statement from IMF will drive every investor away from this country because of the SC. So when such a no, and also the LGBT a pion and a president Adanya Mumu and a Nipana your grounds and also a pet won't do kasa. Because while you're running your mind up born, you make a predator baby. Omoba yes can go baby no. Omufri say oman sika de wudia ensanda. E na omokose say omabusianfo be gum na omofom sika na didi nkwasasem bia omope ehye sika na nyina ma. Eka ebeto oman nanim. Ese sika na sa. David Ajaye ya friend saying ya tam ye contract e okrom ha nyina de amani. A contract was awarded to him, I think in the United States. Ya Jeffrey in some, and he's been accused of, I think I'll find a story and share it with you. Wow, benya daji bia kona kokan. Your friend say, David Ajaye na ye de cathedral man say onsi e wo krom ha say no. Yes, Normal County Library part ways with architect David Ajaye. The story no, me say the main story no. Why they okay. So listen, the county library has parted ways with a member of the design team for its East County flagship location in Graham, as allegations have surfaced accusing the member of sexual misconduct. They've been accused of sexual misconduct, and as a result, Jeffrey in some. This is a guy, and then in crew for ya and Yabuabom, so missing Yamia sorry that my Ukuma. As I say, sick and Kakugo. You're serious. I dear be a busy ye yes. Thelma, thank you. Is a sex scandal. Yes, it's true. I dear be a yasha see a ye okuma. Kasani de dinner way to Kwana, we yet for we yet to the dinner costing 7 humana sebi. Yansa some cry, we are brantiana, we are crabbe say, Peninia Casabico and crano, obit me for a cancer, more general quite Peninia Casayan Sasana, but a nay, ding. So over those parading as leaders, leading us. Obi be can be now over who say a click you a seat but intense to surface because inferior packages in one ya package you more on the front lines. They are with that purpose, they are with that sense of direction, they themselves are confused, and these are people. So what will be the future of this country? So you to know, like I say, we need a paradigm shift, a new wave of thinking, a thinking that will take us beyond partisan whims and partisan conveniences, a thinking that will help us to rise above extreme partisanship and begin to have a feel of what it takes to be patriotic. Because when we get to that level, trust me, we'll be able to hold whoever accountable. It doesn't matter who, when, and what time. And Panifona failure, some were very vocal, some were very, your friend is saying, influential, very critical in the past, but then for some reasons, and the country appear to be on a nosedive consistently. We are diving into the deeper part of the ocean, and nobody seems to be coming to our rescue. Those who are patting us on the back, are those coming with the LGBT package and stuff. The reason they see there, we need to be called textbooks and for my syllabus. It is all because of this LGBT stuff. Now, first sexuality we na go through no. Aban be dan ka de textbook ababra enim. Enti obeja no hosa na obeja no akọ. Then the burden will shift to whoever takes over from him. As to whether there is a contract, there has been an agreement, we don't know. So young not in school for almost 3 to 4 years in here, no textbook for anybody. And a teacher for original class, and I'm also here to me. That is the danger we live in. So the be said the basic kind of Obia and time Obia. Meti hay me papa na ye president a ebia nka me be ho me ho. Mani beje. Saa na wo so ebia saa papa ye minister MP nka wo so de beje. Osamba. But it is not about being an MP, it is not about being a minister, it is not about being a president. But it's the responsibility, the duty that comes with it to be able to serve the needs of those in need, to be able to provide a platform for prosperity for all, to provide an economic platform, a bit more give incentives and some prominence to be a bit more leverage to maximize our individual and innate potentials. That's all that leadership is about. What kind of leadership are you? Leadership are yes singing praises for the aged. Leadership are yes singing praises for the few. And to them, we are just means to their ends. We are just commodities to them. Then I hear the cannon fodder. Dispensable soldiers at the front lines. We can lose our lives at any point in time for them to survive. So as long as you behave and continue to think this way, we will continue to remain as cannon fodders. As a cannon fodder for these people. Soldiers who are expendable. Soldiers who are dispensable. And our politics will continue to be like this. But we need to engage in the constructive politics, a very refined politics that will bring innovation to bear, politics that will generate and force everybody to think, politics that will be able to help us to build the knowledge economy, that is needed to serve as a springboard for this particular country to move on. Because until say building a knowledge economy that is sustainable, that is far-reaching, yenuru baby ya yenemu say ya amanfo na beye ni akwakofa amanfo na beye ye fanso ayemfa ne ye saa ede nenemu saa na de besiasi. But my culture so to be no wadwen say nyame besivu oman na sanjwe ho biem. Because go back and search when this world was created. It is about effort I committed to time with the knowledge and your media mind, being honest and truthful to be able to do whatever that we intend to do. And yes, sitting here and waiting for the miracle, trust me, you will sit here and the entire generation will go. Another will come. That miracle will never happen. So let me leave it here. Today is Friday. I don't want to take much of your time. we've had a fruitful discussion, and all we show now still you can share, because I think that we've said a lot of stuff. This is not just politics. We trying to infuse in a lot of stuff. I beg give you some tips to be very, 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 very way. It will be very, very useful if you want to make informed political choices and decisions going forward. So share platform be was be after way so na obi so enya bintie na follow. Me say all that I'm doing and all that others are doing will be any objective interest for what they do, but my sole objective for doing this, what I'm doing, and let's say waging some kind of a mental revolution on the psyche of the average and the ordinary Ghanaian to be very reasonable, so that the person can make informed political choices. One can say on your own, you become independent-minded. And when you are served with the information, with the knowledge, and you are armed, you understand, you'll be able to look at your own environment. That is how you become independent. And when you become mentally independent, you will learn to be economically independent, and nobody can take you for granted. That is where politicians will begin to fear. But information is the most powerful thing that you need. That is the most powerful. That is why in the Western world, education they've taken to a different level. Enlightenment. They've enlightened their people to an extent that politics, some may not be actively engaged in politics, but they understand and know what is going on. So politicians don't take it this or what the reaction of the people will be, because they are dealing with intelligent, knowledgeable, up-to-date people who understand the trend and the dynamics. By Hano, they see everybody as a bunch of ignorant farmers who don't know anything about politics. Some people think politics is a bona fide property of few individuals in fine coat, driving good cars, sitting in certain homes. Politics is them. So they call themselves the political class. And what they think, what they say is fine now. That is an illusion. That is the stupid appreciation of the concept of politics. Politics is you being able to arm yourself with some bit of information to be able to understand the trend and the dynamics, to be able to make informed political choices. And that is all that I wish for everybody. So that you become powerful. So that Nipano will not be so sure, say, oh, wait, or me Nipa, or me didn't No, you are not a tool. You are not a tool to be used. But you are a human being, and you are dynamic, you are flexible, you reason and think around any point in time, and you make decisions based on prevailing circumstances. That is what makes you a human being. Then you'll be a kojiska kotwaba. Obi kwaje pan kotwaba. Oh yes, sir. What come ni patrebe? Na one omunegu forest na chiho. So at that level, what passing nipa tibia, you are no longer a human being. If you understand the enormity of power that is placed on you by the Constitution, by the virtue of the fact that you are a human being, you are 18 years, and you are of sound mind. That is an inherent privilege that is conferred on you by God and then by the Constitution, by the fact that we nipa woni nyansa na ukoton ade kase we de kwaje sika. You cease to be a human being. So, in Pastor Kasa Bebre, we end it here, and Oko YouTube and so I have a page there. It's Ivan Che Innocent Official. You can go to YouTube and also follow me there. Sometimes I try to put some videos there. I will call high on so mom YouTube no oboshema ubenya access to, and you subscribe to the page. So by ya hold me the video so to how you have access to it. Na yen twice na we be say political gospel no yen spread it. Ebinom ede ya Bible na yafa ya kanyame asem obi so yanso ya de yafa ede political gospel no. We are sending it across the length and breadth of this particular country. Ghanaians in the diaspora everywhere. Yanso ya soro nie yanse na enkwa achiri na se yetimi enlighten ye ho a ebeduru ba bi no aka say leadership ni nyina leadership of every country at any point in time reflected the thinking of the larger society. So if there is misleadership, it means the majority of the people are not thinking right. Because my culture say a thinking country cannot get leaders who are not thinking. So whenever you see that leaders of a country are not thinking, it means the majority of the people in the country are not thinking. It is here to me, arm yourself with information and we begin thinker. It will reset the entire political system. It will not call for any violence. It will not call for anything. Naturally, no, it will reset itself and then everything will be cool. Thank you very much for your time. Like I said, share so that it will be share.